Yeah.
Let me get
No, but
I don't
it
know.
is like,
Oh shit. Sorry. I don't want to
oh
make
no.
the view all right so I can see both of us.
Can you see? I don't know. Do I need to click something on my
Mm,
end?
you good. Sorry,
Well,
I interrupted you. You were saying you're talking about watching I think it was on Grim Grizz stream, right?
yeah. Yeah. I think it was, or it was on Girl Country. But like watching all these people that you've seen, um, and people that even you've connected with, uh, at a seemingly what I mean, relatively intimate level through the like interface of the interwebs. It's like you see pictures of their lives and you know their story now, and then all of a sudden you come into actual real contact with them where you are face to face, that whole notion. Um, yeah, it's like, can I see myself doing that? And there's a part of me that's like, hell yeah. Let me crack a beer. But
Oh, we got
but there's a part of me that's also like, I can't even fathom that, like, but number one, it's there's always this seasonality of life, and I never know if I'm like justifying this, and I'm so prone to or aware of my own ability to deceive myself, or that sort of like self-deception, or maybe it's a deception that has nothing to do with the self, but it's it's this idea that like for me right now, there's no way I can just like slip away from my family and the different obligations that I have and stuff like that to go participate in an event like that. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't like actually like I can actually envision a world where like even the relationship that I have with this little corner, if I emphasized it more, if I made it even more real and actually took the plunge of like participating in a more, I suppose, dynamic way, it's like, um, yeah, I don't know. It's cool to see. It was cool to witness that little like barbecue live stream. I just wanted to know what Nate's barbecue tasted like.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, bro. It really, it strikes me very sharply. Like Luke left a comment and he said I think I'm gonna find it actually just because maybe I'll even share the screen a little bit here.
Yeah.
Um this oh this
Oh my gosh. One time Grim Grizz showed up in a live stream that I was also in, and I like got so excited I couldn't even contain myself. It was like I was meeting a celebrity in my own mind. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I couldn't.
yeah, 100%. That was like me when I first met Sherry and also I'm like really struggling because I'm very self-aware that people can see my screen right now. What am I looking for here? I think it must have been on Grail Country. Um,
Oh man, I was just watching that Matthew Peugeot video and I didn't make it more than 20 minutes in.
no? Yeah,
And
I,
before I got interrupted.
I see, I see. I listened to that while at work today. Dude. Um, yeah, dude, look at this. We got
Hello, can you hear us?
Hendrik right next to
Because that
Jeremy. Look at them. They were
I
together.
know. I know.
Crazy. I mean,
would be really
One of
I
them, look at the,
realized
I'm
because
literally looking
Nate
at the
Grizz kept
pattern.
his live stream and
his arm
Barb's
is
here,
covering up his body.
and he
Look at
has
the
no
foreshortening.
wait this he has this.
There's
And then you have
Matthew Perlon.
there comes there comes in Cecily Rouge.
Look at all these people.
Dude. Yeah, and then you get well, I don't know, I felt kind of weird. It feels a little voyeuristic. Like, look, they're looking at each other and they're like, oh, this is weird.
Are they playing beer pong?
Kind of looks like it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason it came to mind is because Luke said the biggest difference of seeing people IRL is their eyes. So much different slash better. So much more life. It's kind of wild. And this is just like I think this is supremely I feel like everybody knows this, but it's like not. Anyway, I just said I was kind of being jesterish. Said, "Don't be silly, Luke. The difference is completely irrelevant. No such difference." And because I think it's like more um like I don't know, I think that difference is we we don't pay as much attention as is maybe deserving or something, but such that
What I'm imagining in my own, sorry, I feel like I just
I'll go,
interrupted. Um, what I'm imagining in my own mind, and immediately with like, sure, I've got the backdrop of C.S. Lewis's Till We Have Faces. I've got some George MacDonald floating around in my mind right now, but like truly what I'm thinking about is also the scientific aspect of like what the eye is and how the light how it relates to light and and um vision and the sun and kind of like I don't know, just like the way that an entire person's like this notion of like seeing face to face. I always have this picture in my mind because one thing that maybe I'm not even gonna preface it right now, but this idea of meeting face to face, in my opinion, is one light meeting another light. And and so and and it's like but my understanding of like the notion of light or the concept of light is like truly related to the this this understanding of the sun that's also um I don't have time to articulate, but
Let there be light is the first utterance of God in the Bible.
it's uh it, it also has to do with like the light of okay, one of George MacDonald's like lines is he calls God the Father of lights. And suddenly that's become something that I can use now in my vocabulary. The Father of lights? Are you kidding me? Like, how come I haven't thought about this notion? You know, um,
that's a good one.
and it's such an amazing like metaphor um, when you consider yourself as children uh, of the Father.
Mm.
And so it's just like you're literally seeing um, people coming together in that video, and like the light that they're encountering is like two lights coming together of a much larger, greater light that's like shining through them. And
With that,
but you can even understand that astrologically too. So it's like there's a whole other aspect to that notion that is um
well, you've caught my curiosity. I'm curious what you mean by that, like astrologically.
uh
In terms of like the sun, like
yeah. Yeah, in terms of like the sun, that like there's a way in which every single being on this planet, to greater or lesser degree, uh, is oriented. Um,
yeah, all life is like dependent, like everything. Yeah, it's like
The sun is an icon by which we know Christ.
Yeah.
By which we can understand certain things about God because it's the closest thing that in the created world is the closest thing that we have to,
Yeah.
to understanding these certain aspects, right? The idea of light, the idea of majesty, the idea of glory. Basically, nothing else that you encounter in the physical world comes close to the sun in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, the
Cosmic forces of the sun penetrate right into the physical and etheric bodies of men. Michael is essentially a sun spirit. He is therefore the spirit whose task in our epoch is to bring about a deeper, more esoteric understanding of the truths of Christianity. Christ came from the sun. Christ, the sun being, dwelt on the earth in the body of Jesus, and has lived since then in supersensible communion with the world of men. But before the whole mystery, connected with Christ, can reveal itself to the soul, mankind must become sufficiently mature, and the necessary deepening will, to a great extent, have to be achieved during the present age of Michael. We are living in a very early period of the Michael age. Michael and his hosts witness the departure of Christ from the sun. Christ comes to the earth, and lives henceforward in union with the earth. Until the 8th or 9th century, the intelligence is gradually sinking down to the earth. Men begin to ascribe what they call knowledge, what they unfold in thoughts, to their own personal intelligence. Michael sees that what he has administered through eons is now to be found within the souls of men on earth. I will now, Christ as a sun being, is to arise within humanity through Michael, the sun spirit. This is the task of the anthroposophical movement in a very special sense.
There was an altar at the center with the sun on it, and around that were fish-shaped objects nearly as big as it was. They were circling together in concentric rings as if in some sort of grand celestial ritual. It was as real as anything I've ever seen. I floated through this solar temple, and as I went I drifted closer and closer inward toward the sun. My eyes adjusted and I saw a gigantic being within it. It was framed and enveloped by the fire, but I could see its form clearly as though the sun were only a window. There in the center was something called the Star of Glory. It was made of feathered wings fashioned from bright gold, all extending from a point of blinding light. There were no discernible features other than these. It was just light and 6 wings.
And I don't know, in the context of like vision, you're saying it's an interesting thought how like the light, you know, also thinking about like the false light maybe being like LEDs, electricity and stuff, and like the, you know, like it makes me think about the medium as the message, you know, and like the medium when we're in person is like sunlight or something like that. You know, there's other mediums involved, like English or whatever. But like that kind of foundational, that's like the original medium. Like the medium of mediums is Christ the incarnate word or something like that. And it's like incarnate human beings, that's the you know, that's the meeting of heaven and earth. But also just like the fact that we're in the sunlit, you know, we're lit by light. I don't know.
If I were to say that the traditional Christian doctrine of the incarnation could be expressed by the phrase, quote, Christ is the medium and the message, end quote, is that a percept or a concept? McLuhan had this to say: it is a percept because, as Christ said over and over again, it is visible to babes, but not to sophisticates. The sophisticated, the conceptualizers, the scribes and the Pharisees, these had too many theories to be able to perceive anything. Concepts are wonderful buffers for preventing people from confronting any form of percept. Here we go. We're wrapping it up. In Jesus Christ, there is no distance or separation between the medium and the message. It is the one case where we can say that the medium and the message are fully one and the same. All other media were ultimately not just false lights, but false messiahs. That electricity was a false light was equally clear to Vladimir Lenin, who said in 1918 during a conversation with Leonid Krasin on the electrification of Russia, "Let the peasant pray to electricity. He's going to feel the power of the central authorities more than that of heaven."
No medium has its meaning or existence alone, but only in constant interplay with other media. So the instance of the electric light may prove illuminating in this connection. The electric light is pure information. It is a medium without a message, as it were, unless it is used to spell out some verbal ad or name. This fact, characteristic of all media, means that the content of any medium is always another medium. Our human senses, of which all media are extensions, also configure the awareness and experience of each of us.
The key to understanding McLuhan's Catholicism, his media theory, or McLuhan himself, is not to simply read what he is saying, but to participate in understanding how he is saying it. For the user is the content. True perception, for McLuhan, was only possible for the true medium, which was the incarnate Christ. Quote, and the process of perception is that of incarnation, end quote. Though he never coined the phrase, the medium is the Messiah, may have been McLuhan's ultimate perceptual insight.
We're lit by light. I don't know. And also just, maybe taking it a bit down from the super abstract, even though I'm all about it.
No, I went there too, and really quickly. So
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And I don't think it's super abstract, but anyway, but just simply like the fact that we don't actually, like I pretty rarely actually look directly into the camera, and like we're not, and when I am looking directly into the camera, I can't be looking at you at the same time. And this is like everyone knows this. It's like but I think this is extremely important because I don't, it's like I don't know. I don't want to sound like a broken record, and I don't want to like desacralize it because I think it's so sacred. This face-to-face connection that is possible, but it's really like I think that this is maybe responsible for so much of the kind of the tribalism and the binary thinking and stuff. Like because when somebody says, I don't know, like when insults are being thrown and stuff, like this type of stuff wouldn't happen when you're seeing somebody right in the eye, like and I don't know, but there's so much that could be said, but I think you get the general idea is that like, yeah, these subtle differences, they really are at play and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think there might even be like a kind of like when you can go around all day long without like looking people in the face, which generally I think that's true. Like I went to the park earlier today with my son and my daughter, and I think we might have actually heard Bigfoot in the woods. But
so the question is, does Bigfoot exist in the way that Santa exists? I would say that for sure Bigfoot exists less than Santa, if you want to say it that way. Or he exists like he's a monster. Bigfoot's a monster. Santa's not a monster. And monsters, just like dragons exist too, right? They are this hybrid possibility on the edge of being. Bigfoot is this in-between space. He's part of it.
I think we might have actually heard Bigfoot in the woods. But it was interesting because you're running into like other people and you're not really like looking at them in the eyes and you could, but that you're going to be investing in a whole nother dimension of connection if you even begin like even glancing at somebody and locking eyes with them, and then suddenly the whole world shifts. Like everything shifts because now you've brought some kind of attention that you have otherwise been sort of just like I don't know, you've been operating in this passive way, and I know for me like that I have been one of those people at various times in my life where like I haven't been able to bring myself to like look people in the eyes, and yet also understanding the deep importance of that. But there is this like acknowledgement that I know that I'm like avoiding a kind of intimacy there because it's not that you look into somebody's eyes and you see everything, but yeah, man,
Well, here, let me get you an example which came to my mind when you were talking about Atticus, because I completely understand. We have a dog who came to us very damaged because it had been abandoned and tied to a pole, and the people that found it tied to a pole. I don't know how long she had been tied to that pole, and all her hair had been chopped off funny, and at first it looked like she had been abused in some way, and so she was also very fearful when she came to us. But more than that, it made me think about my daughter when she was about 2-3 years old. She was just kind of becoming aware of when maybe her consciousness was just kind of arising in her. And we were having a party one night, and she had done something naughty. I don't even remember what it was. And she came up to me, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. Right? I wasn't angry with her. I was trying to get her attention so that I could give her loving eye contact, because I know how important that is in relationship with a child. Just to use your eye contact to express love. So I was trying to pour this loving eye contact into her. She would not look me in the eye. And that's the way we are. When we make a choice that we know is against, I think even oftentimes when it's not like something that's against God's laws, but it's in opposition to what is the best thing for us and for the other people around us, we inherently know that we've made that choice. And when we've made that choice, if we haven't really haven't allowed God to nurture our relationship with him, then we're not going to make eye contact with him. That's not him turning away from me. That's me turning away from him. And that's why we feel alone and hopeless and desperate, because we're not allowing him to pour that loving eye contact into us. But if we trust him in that moment and say, yes, I did something really bad, and I might even bear the consequences for it down the road, and maybe there's nothing you can even do about those consequences, but I want you to purify me and change me and mold me and make me into your image. The only way that can happen is if we look at him, because it's in looking at him that we see his image, and he pours his image into us more and more. You know how it says in, I think it's James, that when you look into the perfect mirror of the law. One of your other questions that you wrote.
Not that you look into somebody's eyes and you see everything, but yeah, man, it's even, what was I going to say with that? But there's
passersby and stuff like that. You're just talking about like going to the park.
Yeah, going to the park and I suppose the thing is I don't know if the intimacy crisis is the right word, or the meaning crisis, or whatever it is. It, however you term it or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But there's definitely something to this longing that I think people do have to resonate with other people, and choosing that word purposefully. There's a kind of belonging that we all want, even a kind of validation that we want to see reflected in another person. And I don't want to say it's like you have to level the playing field for that to occur, but I mean, like, truly, if you want to look somebody in the eyes, there has to be this kind of like level playing field of like, and that's the wrong metaphor. Honestly, it is, but it's just like you have to meet, your light and their light have to meet each other. I always think about this in relation to the like wanting to see the face of God, because I remember this being like the cry of my heart for years, like, I want to see your face, but I can't, like I can't, I'll die. Um, you know, but I want to see it. And there's a way in which like there's an isolation and loneliness in that notion. but there's also this drawing forth of like light from inside of you, or even like the way in which your flame could burn even brighter to meet that light. Because there's this kind of like idea that you can't look at the sun, but if you become the sun, like if you
Yeah, the only way to be able to like look right at the sun would be to like become the sun or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, that I just went.
Oh man, I'm loving the ramble. Like, I think I'm following what you're saying. I think it's, the thing that really stuck with what you were saying there was in terms of talking about like when people are asking each other and like this decision whether or not to look, like in people's who avoid it and stuff like that. I basically think about it where like there's this other language going on all the time, and but we're unconscious of it. And also you said resonate, the word resonate, you know, because another aspect of this I think is how um it's like that Matthias Desmond article, the distinction between like information and communion or communication or something, where it's like um even sometimes when people are in person and they are eye to eye, there can still be this avoidant thing where we're not engaging with the depth of it, you know? And I think that that kind of flipping thing, it goes with the left brain, right brain stuff where like
Yeah.
when we see it all iconically rather than like trying to understand the other person definitionally or be like, this is what you are, putting you in a box. When we kind of abide with them and we resonate through this empathic resonance, that's when I think the communication opens up. So, but I'm kind of investigating two themes at once here. That's one thing with the resonate. The other thing is the unconsciously, like everybody is doing this, and we all kind of, like when you walk by someone and there's kind of a slight glance, and then like people look away, and then like you're still going. And I think everybody knows like that feeling of like kind of the weirdness, but it's like there's this instant deep connection, but then it's like we kind of agree that we're not going to go into this because we're just passing by or something. And to my eye, when I kind of noticed that there was this subtle all this stuff happening, that's all I wanted to talk about. But because I think if we really engage with this, maybe we'll meet each other more deeply. But the problem
Yeah.
is that if you start talking about that, people don't like it because it's I don't know.
Yeah,
You guys
it's the
become
elephant in the room. It's
yeah,
like
something like that. It's like,
everybody's.
hey, we're naked for each other. We're right in front of each other, busted wide open. But it's like you don't want to hear that, Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's me just kind of looking for reasons why people don't take me seriously or something. I don't know.
No, I love that. I think it in oh man, like everybody wants that. I
Yeah.
think maybe there are people that don't want that, but I think that I have a problem that like I suppose I think I have a deep issue with this idea of like feeling a sense of belonging is incredibly difficult for me. It's almost like the minute I feel that, I start putting up the borders and the boundaries. Like and I think it's because um there's a kind of way in which I'm not able to at some point I make a mistake even of not being my authentic self. And then suddenly I have to be I'm flipped into this facade that is not even who I am anymore because of some like false step, and then you have to feign this sort of personality that's not even you or whatever. And maybe this is too entrenched into like my own.
No, I think this is right on the money. I think this is super relevant. So, and not just because it's like your idiosyncrasies or anything. I think it's a lot of people have similar things, but please continue. Like,
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's even so, like, what I want is even something that I no longer have in my own home. I'm building this now with my family, but at some point, my home, even as a child, became not my home anymore. And I didn't feel the sense of belonging that I once felt in that home, even though that was the place that I could eat and sleep, and I felt complete and total, like I could be as vulnerable, I could be unconscious in that home
Mm.
and know that I was protected. I could be asleep, I could just, I could shit, I could eat, and those are also really intimate acts, in my opinion, too, like this mastication we do in front of each other.
It reminds me of that. I I heard Neil talking about one time the there's a story in the Bible where one of the apostles was like sleeping in front of guards at prison, and he was just like sleeping there. And this is kind of opposite from what you're saying insofar as like he was able to feel at home anywhere. And like but it's a interesting thing like
Oh,
yeah, like I'm following what you're saying, like how that's a that's a it's a noteworthy thing, that you can like be unconscious there. Yes, please go on.
no, and well, you had my head immediately spinning because I think the inverse is also true in the sense that, like, you lose that sense of belonging, but that doesn't, and maybe that there's an unneeded evolution of consciousness that is occurring in that process. Uh, the leave and cleave notion of moving away from your family, whatever, I'll just say leave and cleave, whatever that means. I don't know. Uh, but this other, what you said there struck me because, like, there should be a way that you can belong to this world at all times
Hmm.
and feel that sense of I belong here. And I think that um, there's something that is robbing that sensibility from um, uh, uh, from us. And I mean, I'm sure there's. I mean, you could point to the pain and suffering in the world and being like, well, of course that's gonna fill us with all kinds of terrors, and perhaps even when we experience that ourselves, we're gonna build all kinds of walls around us and fortify ourselves so that we can be these little islands. And there's something self-respectable about somebody who's self-contained, who is an island in a certain sense. Uh,
It's kind of sovereign.
yeah, this, like, man, my head's spinning because I'm thinking about the fact that, like, this is actually really pertinent to me in neighborliness and living in a sort of like agricultural exchange locally, and the necessity of, like, sort of having the ability to uh, provide for myself before being able to provide for others, and, like, securing that kind of like sustenance and all that stuff. But, like,
Yeah, it's big
that's a
top.
whole nother.
Yeah, it's big topics up in there for sure.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is um I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can
Yeah.
pick up
I
because
feel
I'm
like I kind of interrupted you in terms of like you're talking about like belonging and how like there's a weird thing where we put on a mask as soon as like that kind of intimacy arises sometimes. And also and yeah, it's very numinous to me as well. Probably for slightly different reasons, but like insofar as I think that's this kind of nonverbal language, or however, like let's say the right brain language, the part of like the tone and the gesture and all the stuff that um gets messed with digitally. Um like that stuff, I think about that as just like English. It's something it's something we learn, but it's also kind of a natural thing where like everybody smiles, and but it's something we can do consciously, right? We can smile and like, but we can also, once we realize that we can like fake smile, right? So it's like I kind of think about it as like this faculty or this technology of expressing ourselves non-verbally and like syncing up with other people through that,
Mhm.
by like resonating with your um, non-propositional being or something like that. Um, I think
Yeah.
about that faculty as kind of like this powerful unconscious uh, tool or technology or faculty or magic, however you want to say it, and such that we have to find a right relationship with it. Because right now, since we don't, when we encounter those weird situations, like it's like the technology uses us and we get stuck, like the mask is controlling us. And
Mhm.
and that's no good, like, and um yeah, I don't know if that, like, I'm not trying to say that you're
No,
like
I think
particularly
you.
odd one out or anything. I think that everybody, and we all, and I think we're on the precipice insofar as we all kind of bump up against it these days, where we see each other, but we don't know how to deal with it. We see each other, but then, it freaks us out. So we just unconsciously throw on our masks, or we like look away, or we, put the other person in a box so we don't have to think about it, like, I don't know.
In talking about it at this level where you can kind of like you take that macro view and you look at it and it's just like so silly because everybody just wants to bring their sincerity to the table, and
Like, see,
everybody wants to feel that kind of belonging and safety and the kind of place where you can be vulnerable and I can be vulnerable, where I can be the fullest expression of me. Because like right now, what I feel like public conversation does is it thins down the identity that you bring to the table, or bring to the conversation, and you can't show who you truly are in all your idiosyncrasies because the only people that can see that are maybe your parents up until the age of 12 or something, and then they begin,
oh
I'm
yeah,
sure people have like, but then you start hiding certain aspects of who you are because perhaps like you don't agree with every single
mhm,
uh, you're no longer the culture that you're forming outside of perhaps your home um, is different than the culture that you had inside of your home, and now that's changing. And I'm using home particularly because I see home as the quintessential like piece of the puzzle because I feel like the earth is our home
mhm,
and the earth is God's home. And so like understanding what a home is and what is like probably one of the like largest projects of my intellectual journey, in a certain sense. And I can't divorce that from this understanding of like um, people call it the uh, what is it? The nuclear family, but this idea of um, father, mother, wife, husband, children, brother, sister, like all these things that truly are like I can't what those words even mean. I can't get to their etymological root without like finding their symbolic significance broadcasting across the entire cosmos. So it's like that's I think that's what's um tickling my brain often when I think about this idea of belonging because it takes like uh some of this meaning that we no longer even have uh in our words. So then we have to like um, resurrect what our understanding of a father is, and what the mother is, and what a brother is, and what a sister is, what a wife and a husband is, what a child is, and what this notion of fidelity is, and what a household is, and what a home is, and all these things. And they're so pertinent to me right now too, is like obviously somebody, and also I'm very aware of the fact that like all the language I'm using is like super heteronormative too. So it's I get that like there's something happening there, but and I could try to articulate more, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. That pulled it into another category that I'm not sure that I know how to.
I kind of, yeah, there's kind of so many things that I lost track a little bit. The
Yeah.
uh when yes, that like the home, I encourage you to like continue your investigation into that concept of the home and stuff. I think that's very, that seems like a promising endeavor. Um, and talking about how, oh yeah, and how we all want that feeling of belonging and connection, and like, and yeah, I think that that's really um critical and like crucial in the sense that like the fellow feeling, the shared experience. Like to me, it just makes me think about like the body of Christ and this idea of like um some like evolution of human human communion, such that like we are being called towards this place where we meet each other more deeply and that we can recognize our shared humanity and like feel with each other deeply. And that is kind of the future home that we're being called into. It's like it's like the prodigal son being called home or something, like it's like our true home is where we see each other and like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, I think that seems, good sentiment there. Um,
The place that you can go in and out of as well. That's always been
hmm,
tantalizing to me in my understanding of what a home is too, because we can still go home, you know. Um,
yeah. Yeah, what do you think about this? Yeah, it's making me think about the open circle and like the whole the earth is not our true home. Some people say this, and some
mhm.
people say like our true being is in heaven or something, but then like heaven and earth are connected. And I don't know, like I see a sense in which like the earth is not our true home. But then I also kind of imagine it's like heaven and earth together. It's all our home, like or something, because I imagine where it's like you have the closed circle and the open circle, and then communion with God. Um, so like I think about our true home is when the circle is open and like we can be in the world, but there's also the presence of God everywhere or something like that.
I have this whole thing in my head, but I don't know how to articulate it. I'm gonna give it a whirl, but that notion that um there's a way in which eh, heaven is anywhere but like more deeply into the reality that currently exists for us here in our particular mundane lives. I guess what I'm realizing in my own self, and in my own encounter with reality is things haven't necessarily become more real to me as I've aged. What was real to me and where I encountered the real was in childhood, largely, in my own understanding, and that, yes, is tempered by the fact that like childhood had a kind of enchantment that um is lost to me now. Uh Not entirely, but I only am privy to glimpses of that real. And it's usually when I pay more close attention to what's right before me and bring a kind of presence to
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this before actually, about how like I think it was in the video where you were talking about the divine spark and
yeah.
and how like it's all everyone's trying to like the really real is right here and now.
Your very character, your very being, your ontological, your very existence itself, I don't know. When your being aligns with God's being, when your character aligns with God's character, and I don't think that's always how we see it. Like it's always a movement into some place that you aren't already at. As if it's always a movement outside of who you already are, rather than recognizing that the integrity, this gets into all the integrity stuff.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, please talk.
I forget the exact way you phrased it, but
Yeah.
I think it was
Well,
in you were talking
it
about.
even, Michael Martin, and he wrote this book called The Submerged Reality, which I troubled myself enough to like read a few chapters into, but never finished, And at least the notion that I got from it was like that the real there's a submerged reality, and that's the capital R real. That heaven is not like this like um eh, this thing that is
Somewhere.
uh
It's not somewhere else.
it's not somewhere else. It's actually like it's actually right before us. Like in this notion that like the kingdom is now. It's not anywhere else. And so it's like yes, you can toss around this idea of like the eternal now, but what I'm more so suggesting would be kind of akin to this notion that I come across in C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce, where like this bus finally reaches, spoiler alert, but the bus finally reaches, um, heaven, and not that it was a uh, prolonged saga to reach that place, but like the you step out of the bus and you can't even walk on the grass because it's so sharp it pierces your feet. So like in almost the way that you're capable of even comprehending in understanding heaven and actually living in that place and participating in that place is by becoming more real than you currently are right now, which is a kind of deeper participation. So this like echoes Owen Barfield's notion of like, you know, uh, uh, what is I'm thinking of original participation, withdrawal from participation, and a final participation. It's like this kind of like true penetration of the particular world that is like um, where matter becomes more than what it already is. You know, like the density of the grass is is compounded. It's exponentially more than what it was. And you can't even encounter a butterfly that won't kill you because it'll fly right through your body. You're a figment of what you will be. You're like a phantom in the current world where we're living. And what needs to take place is like this deeper participation in the real in order to become even I don't like the word callous because there's a kind of like suffering and pain that has to occur, but perhaps that's the perfect language to describe it. Like there's a kind of callus that needs to form on your feet before you can walk on the grass. There's a kind of deeper embodiment that needs to occur before you can even like encounter an insect, you know, as small as an ant, and everything's just more real. And that it sounds so like almost corny to like say something like that. I don't know in my own mind, but like becoming more real, I think is something that does occur through uh, a kind of direct encounter, like uh, with your particular incarnation, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, yeah, I keep getting images of like there's like a dying there's something about death that is relevant as well, like dying to self, like how Christ is kind of the picture of full participation. Like participation is like um it's like prioritizing the real over your
Hmm.
duality or something like I don't know, but that's not the right word, but it's like yeah, that deeper participation is like agape, and agape is kind of this little death in a way of like, to experience, to viscerally experience what's there with you. Um, yeah. And also this idea of like being who you are, that's really, I think, important. And then um also another thing talking about the submerged reality, what's coming to mind for me is this idea of Gnosticism, right? Because, and this is where I'm going to make my little plug for Galahad. You know,
Please do, yeah.
I'm a, I'm a big fan, in case anyone hasn't noticed. And, um, I think debatably the most fundamental thing that is kind of key to his phrasing is this idea that we're being called to kind of integrate Gnosticism, such that there was this one-sided reading of Christianity,
Oh.
and the shadow side of it is Gnosticism, right? And but there's something in Gnosticism that we're being called to integrate. Um, but it's kind of going messily at the moment. And I think what that is, what the Gnostic impulse is the submerged reality. It's that there's a deeper reality that we are not encountering, you know, and that we need to we need to pierce through the veil. But I think maybe where it goes wrong is when people think that that's somewhere else,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
Uh,
Ah,
it's like they say death to the world and stuff. I'm like, no, the world is lit. It's like lit with the Father of Lights. It's like, yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Like every single, I mean, like you can look at the freaking sash behind you on the window and you've got a whole world of like uh grain, like just like everything is just like I don't know. It's I think like ultimately I think that's perhaps become so prevalent in our day and age, because of that sort of withdrawal from participation, which I think does coincide with this sort of movement from pre-modernity into modernity and sort of the medieval period into the modern period, and so it's like um
yeah,
yeah, there's a kind of, but the thing is like we don't even have the language anymore. uh
looking up at a vase full of flowers.
And I think people actually have those experiences all the time.
Yes,
The
I
trouble
think
is
so.
we haven't got or we've lost, or we've even willfully forgotten the conceptual framework to make sense of them.
Yes.
See, like the words that we're even saying don't even mean what they did. Um,
Mankind has the task of learning to give meaning back to words.
Even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago, if the words were even, like that I think that's what's crazy to me is when I think about like what's contained, and this is Barfield's too. This is Barfield too, as like a history of English words. Like he always he just sees words with all their contingency, uh, that in perhaps as much contingency as one man can even conceptualize for a word.
Like, literature and words uniquely give you an insight into the consciousness of a people.
From language, and ancient languages, and etymology being this this source of insight into the past.
But there's just so much meaning that's lost. And
Yeah.
so, but man, you were saying something beautiful there that I feel like I just lost track of somehow.
Good. You said when you connected it back to modernity, I think that's where my head is at as well, in terms of like,
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
well, just I think you're right about suggesting that I think you're that whole idea. I'm gonna have to listen to Galahad because I haven't listened to any of his content. But this understanding of like integrating that kind of Gnosticism, but understanding where it has where it's lost the kind of like that's so ironic. Like the notion if you grow up in the Western world and you grow up with a like Western education and maybe you've taken a couple philosophy courses, you have this understanding of Gnosticism that has nothing
Yeah,
to
like
do.
gnosis was a Christian word for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. And you better damn well believe that had something to do with like uh
No,
uh
like
a descent of God's only son into the earth. You know, like uh
yeah,
in you know, so yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I mean, well, yeah. I encourage you uh to look into Galahad's work, and yeah, and I mean the in terms of modernity and like this, yeah. Well, the one more thing about the Gnostic impulse is like that's what we see in science as well. It's kind of like that's what's the scientific impulse as well, and it kind of connects to there's a whole conversation which we'll probably have to save for another day about pharmacon. I'm excited to talk about that, but I think it's similar. It's like that kind of uh I think science and all that is all Gnostic in character to some extent. And it's just that we have to find the right relationship with it. And that's like not to take it too far where we're just trying to escape, where we're at like all the time. But there is a certain sense where we do need to escape where we're at. It's like we are in the matrix of our own creation through our left brainism of modernity, and like we need to pierce that shit.
I
Um,
know, man. I
yeah, and
know.
that's where it's really interesting to me, like, because I think that's where it gets more down to brass tacks and stuff, I think, in terms of like what is it about modernity that kind of what is the trend that's been up? And I think a lot of it is to do with the way we relate to language, like if the medium is the message, like the message that's been shaping us has been gradually changing because we are our mediums are changing as well. Where first we have like the printing press rolls up, boom, complete havoc, and then all of a sudden, you've got radio and TV and news and stuff like that. Boom, like another crazy, like, and then we've got these video stuff and Twitter and like and it's wild in my opinion, and I mean, I worry that sometimes I sound like I am unable to see the redeeming factors in all these things. Um, I still think people should write books, I still think that we should have conversations like this, perhaps, like
Yeah.
there's good things, but ultimately what my mind goes in terms of like this kind of modern alienation from each other and from a sense of belonging and from being in the kingdom, you know, we're in the kingdom. Like, I think I think what goes to my mind is just like this thing about the modern relationship with like linguistic mediums, where that shift where we see that there's something different about seeing somebody directly in the eye. I think that's where we should notice that and be like, maybe we should continue noticing this. I mean, I thought it was great to see Luke kind of point out that obvious thing, that probably every single person who is going to this event, which I'm having big FOMO. I wish I was there. I don't know
No.
why I didn't go, but it's like I think everybody probably thought, oh wow, this person is not who I thought they was, or wow, this seems different than
Yeah,
our usual conversations. Like, yeah, like I thought it was cool to see Luke point that out.
I thought
I think that's where, in terms of trying to find a right relationship, like how much should I lean into these digital spaces? Something I don't know if you said that before. I think we were recording by then, but
yeah.
like I think if we're gonna be in these digital mediums, we have to remember that. We have to remember that the real, this is real, but the really real is like at these
It's
events, at
emerged.
these awesome events that were,
It's
you
you coming over to my house and we dig some potatoes out back or
know,
whatever, like
you never know.
whatever. The invite is open for all the internet. Just come on over. Park a camper out back. We'll have a fire.
Yeah, I'm so
We'll
down.
eat some s'mores.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's funny. I say this and I say I'm so down and stuff, but meanwhile, I still haven't been to the estuary that's in my hometown.
oh, I know. Oh man, I have. I've gone to the one here a few times and it just so happens to fall at dinner time. It with infants, it's hard to get out, but
I don't have much of an excuse.
yeah, but I can come up with excuses all day. If it wasn't that, it'd be something else.
Like I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely. I don't claim to have it all. Like no matter how much I might be able to understand. It's a different thing to implement it. I still have my bad habits. I still live. I think I actually kind of wanted to say something about this. Yeah, you were talking about. I forget exactly the context, but mentioning there's a point where the separation, moving out from your parents. You know, that's like man, this is a huge thing, and also talking about. I was also reminded of this at some point while you were talking, where it came to mind that people are very judgmental and such, where it's like, you know, it's hard, like, I don't know. There's so many thoughts going through my head right now, but to try and stay focused, I'll just say that, like, yeah, I hope that I feel like people get a little hung up on my idiosyncrasies in order to not see the depth of what I'm actually saying, or something like that. I don't know, like,
Like
uh,
that you're like a coxswain or something?
no, that like I have like that I live with my parents and that I have like
Oh.
mm, have bad habits or whatever. But maybe
Oh.
that's just a point for another day. Maybe that's just my Mars return in Cancer speaking up or something.
Well,
What I was trying to get at is just that I don't, I can say all this stuff, but even myself, I still don't have, I haven't implemented as much of it as I was like, because it's so easy to get lost in these digital spaces, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying like yeah, we have to, if we're going to be in these spaces, we have to also, you know, they have to be. Marshall McLuhan said it's not that any particular medium is bad, it's that it's unbalanced with the other mediums, and it's like
yeah.
watching YouTube videos, and making YouTube videos, and it's like you also have to be participating in your local community and stuff and trying to connect the two, maybe, it's so
I think it's okay. I don't want to get into the pharmacon stuff because like you
I
were
know we
saying,
have to save
uh,
that.
it will save it for another time, but I think like for me, I'm always struggling with where to land on some of that uh, because um, well, I'll save it. But there's a certain sense in which like there's this there's this embodiment that like I even when I said earlier when I'm watching that video of everybody getting together. That's how we started this conversation. We're watching that video of everybody getting together. I was like, man, I could probably only do that if I had a couple beers in me. I would need some sort of like you know way to the liquid courage, whatever you want to call it, all the metaphors we have to describe this sort of like I would need my spirit to be liberated in a way. I would need my spirit to I wouldn't want to give I would want to be authentic. I would want to be who I am because that's what those people deserve. They don't deserve anything but like and that's what everybody deserves. And so it's just like but there's a certain sense in I don't even know how to provide that with all the different uh you know what do you I don't even know what you'd call what all my misanthropic tendencies or like all my anxieties and and psychoses and neurotic tendencies and whatever else. It's just like one of the ways in which and this is a weird irony as well that I don't know how to dance around and it's like I want to experience the real, but it seems like one of the ways in which I experience the real is through a kind of augmentation of my reality through um, uh, mind-altering substances to a certain degree. And so there's this way in which I'll preach all day that the way up is the way through, but the only way that I know how to go through is is this is a kind of like let me drink 12 beers and smoke a doobie by the fire with you and I'm now I'm there with you and but the thing is what's also riding up against that like super heavily is the fact that now I'm a father and like are all my experiences with my children going to be mediated by this um like I'm not smoking doobies with my children and but
You have to
it
find a different way to like
yeah
communicate.
and there's a kind of like necessity of me to be like there in a very like different way than and sometimes I found myself like I don't want to be using for instance and this might be something that maybe people could have a variety of different experiences in regards to this. But for me, and I'm only speaking for me, nobody else, but like this, there's something that falls short for me when I have to use uh, uh, some sort of substance in order to like get on the same level as my child. Like in order for me to um, become childlike, I need this, you know, the only way for me to penetrate reality, to be present, to be like truly there with people is to like lean on to uh something outside of myself and but at the same time I also realize the state that we're in. Like I see that we're locked in to this like very um all I'm thinking about is Mark Shepard's capitalist realism. Like I'm thinking about like the way in which like you are like how do you expect any other means by to penetrate the real? Like besides this kind of authenticity that's so far gone and so removed and so like abstract for so many people that they can't even conceptualize like how to begin to uh, chart a path towards a kind of new embodiment in the world um, that you know takes perhaps I don't know. I don't know if anything I'm just saying there because I'm like
Oh,
shooting from the hip. I got a
no, no,
couple
no.
beers.
I'm
Yeah, I got
I'm definitely following it, and I think I'm really excited to talk about as you mentioned to me, you think maybe it would be good to talk about weed and or cannabis, I should say, and like and I think that would be good as well. I think that we could have a fruitful and productive conversation that would maybe add to the larger TLC
Yeah.
conversation and stuff, and just in general, this topic of a right relationship with pharma and you know,
Yeah.
substances. I think it's a huge and very interesting topic. So I'm excited. I feel like we should save it though.
Yeah. Sorry, I dipped my toes
Oh,
in. So
good. I can't blame you. I think that's a very pertinent point in terms of you know, how do we how do we make that shift and kind of what is I think that you could get along just fine, even if maybe a beer or two were involved. I don't know about 12. I don't think you need 12 beers to be sociable. I think that everybody who went to that conference probably had some sense of I don't know if I can do this, but then maybe they would see that in each other's eyes and be like, oh, we're good, and
yeah,
but yeah, I know the
it's
feeling.
so true. Like half the time I have to so for instance, my wife always is like I don't want to do things. I could be perfectly content in my backyard, in my garden all day, every day, never connecting with anybody, or at least so I say, so I say. And oftentimes my wife will be like, "Hey, we're going to this event," and it's like pulling teeth to express excitement and joy to connect with other people and uh I know that sounds horrible because I really do love people. And it sounds like I'm saying the exact opposite.
People are
Uh
introverted, I don't know, not to say it, but we can all be introverted at times, I think,
yeah.
yeah.
But oftentimes what it is I just need to I need to break the ice, and that's what it is there's this kind of ice that's over everything, and almost every time that I break that ice, and then I can view it in retrospect of the event that occurred, I'm like, oh my gosh, all of that was in my head. All of that was an illusion. All of that was a delusion. All of that was not actually, there was some story that I was believing that's not in actuality what's possible. Like there's way more that's possible. Um, and what I mean is like human connection and a sense of belonging and all these things that I value.
I think really so this is to my eye, it's just like the general abiding malaise of our time is that people have this inability to or there's this kind of weirdness around real intimacy and stuff and I don't know, I don't think I think I could see both sides of what you're saying, that one uh it's kind of in our heads and we get wrapped up about stuff like this. And I think you would probably be fine. Like, I think you would probably, get over that hump quicker than most. You know, but, um, but I also think, that there is something to be said for the fact that it is kind of like a difficult thing that we struggle with, and um, kind of it reminds me of again about what you're saying about how the mask can come up quickly, where the mask, um, where my experience of it is kind of it's like a floodgate sometimes that the floodgate can just, uh, I don't know, I don't know, some of it I feel like it's just because I think about it so much that it, that kind of world, I feel like sometimes I can sync up with I don't know, I can fall into people's music very easily or something, or very
Uh,
helplessly. I don't know. But it's also, I don't know, man. I feel like for me, it's hard for me to speak on this because my particular case is, when that intimacy, when that first thing happens, the mask impulse, for me, it's more, I get that, but it's also for me, it's just immediate tears. I'm like, this is the kingdom is at hand, and I want
yeah.
to point it out, and I want to be like, I want to draw attention to, but you can't always do that. So I don't know. I have been pretty alienated, honestly, since
Yeah.
2017 in that respect, where I've kind of been avoiding that tremendous beauty of intimacy just because I feel like it's so overwhelming. But I don't know. I don't want to over dramatize that a bit, because I have had moments of connection over the past several years and stuff. But yeah, man, it's the problem of our time, I think. How do we meet each other? And
Yeah.
um
And then it's like also the necessity of like you don't just meet somebody once. You just you if you want to know them, they become a place for you to indwell, like they become like a whole nother like they become a part of you, and that takes time and yeah, kind of like commitment and yeah, through thick and thin type thing too.
yeah, and people like to just make these judgments about people through internet, things like we write people off so quickly online. It's like, no, you have to people you might say that we could never judge, like it's like judge not let's see, it's like there's only one judge. Who are we to judge? But taking the angle where we can do some judging, it would have to be reliant on this actual gnosis of the other person, piercing beyond the veil, and like to know them, it's to participate in their being and to share
Yeah.
in their being, and that happens through extended periods of time. I think primarily in person, because all the silence when we're eating together, and like not speaking, when we're walking down, when we share the same scenery, all this stuff, that's how we know each other, so you can't judge people online, I don't think,
I don't think you can either. I really don't think you can.
something. It's like I can judge you have a mustache. It's like I can judge that. I can see the identity of, mustache. There is the pattern mustache is appearing, but it's like these more subtle patterns, like
Yeah.
it's like the intricacies of like your emotional being. I can't judge that through the screen. Come on. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear
I
you.
think we must remember this, because there's so much bullshit tribalism online, and I think that if people just got together, they would probably be friends.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Even like, yeah. Yeah, there's a almost like high school element to it all.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. It's so dumb. But yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Sometimes I get a bit fired up about it, just hopefully not too much. So
No, no, I think you're good. And I think like that kind of the kind of loneliness that I mean it accompanied, it was already headed in that direction, and then it was like, gosh, what was that? 20 2020 to whatever, or whatever the last 5 years have been for all of us. It's like, man, I know that uh yeah, there's been all kinds of reorientations to like new situations, and suddenly like making friends. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 33, and it's like making friends in my 30s is like way different than like making friends in my early 20s. And obviously there's major differences between that and making friends when you're, you know, y- you've got a whole different set of prerogatives in regards to, you've got children and you've got this whole other vision of perhaps even a beatific vision that you're pursuing, but then like you'd never want to lose sight of like the fact that like your neighbor is a part of that vision, and you're not living in some kind of isolation, uh, or some kind of self-sustenance that you're going to be able to make this happen by yourself. Like, no, you need everybody else. I think that one's hard for me, because there's a lot of this like independence that I'll sense that like I've got to do it all, you know. I gotta make it all happen by myself because I'm the only person that I can depend on, and that's not true at all.
Mhm.
And that's not the way it's functioned either. So like the proof is in the pudding. I need my neighbor to come over and do all his dirty deeds. And yeah.
No, I had two thoughts there. I want to try and I feel like the got my couple shots of me. It's getting a little late here. It's 10 o'clock, but I had to
Yeah.
work. But I had two thoughts. I got um just saying. Could you give me the cliff notes of what you just said again? There was something really important, I think. I don't remember what it was. The
Good luck. I'm also at that late eve hour where the conversation could certainly come to a close. We'd all be very happy. But no, I think it was just
loneliness. I think that's what you're talking about. And
yeah, I think it was. I think it was mostly that you know, yeah,
or
oh,
not loneliness, but like like also just like making friends and in the ages and
making friends and maybe there is a difference too. Like oddly enough, uh, like it's just so weird how everything like reoriented over the last 5 years for me in regards to friendships and like suddenly what is that uh notion where like you've got this like landscape of people that you can affiliate with and maintain connection with, but at
lumbar.
least no Dunbar number. At least for me, like that Dunbar number doesn't seem accurate. Like I feel like it's shrunk so significantly to like I almost have to like just to get through the day, it's like I have to contend with the people that I need to contend with for, you know, running my own business and yada 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 yada. But like when it comes to friendship, it's just like zoom, zeroed in on like these are the people that I can give my time to, and I can't expend myself that much more beyond that. But that might also be like raising young children.
Yeah,
And
I remembered what I was gonna say. Well, or at least one of the things, which is that I really think that that's kind of probably that's probably our main difference between us two as individuals.
yeah,
Is that like I really think it's such a huge transformation that occurs when you have kids. It's like you were saying about the prerogatives in terms of like like everything like making friends. Like there's all this other shaping to it. It's like I forget, and then that connected to something else, but I don't remember. It was like um yeah, it's an interesting um oh yeah, like you were saying something about being like you want to be real for those people. Um you want to be authentic for those people. Man, there was something on the tip of my tongue. I hate this part of that. I
it's
just can't remember it. Um but yeah, I'm not gonna remember, but um
yeah, that's fine. Can you tell me what this painting in the upper corner is where looks like there's a couple street lights,
oh,
um, somebody taking a stroll. Is it icy? Is it raining? What's happening?
this one I got this one at the Mulberry Comics in Boston.
In Boston. Oh yeah, you're in Connecticut. Oh
Yes.
wow. There's a
This
dog. There's a dog.
you can see it. This is what we're doing.
You don't have to take it all the way. I guess it's too late.
I got it because I like the pretty colors. Because I thought it would be good to have a picture of a couple on my wall, because that would be like a subconscious reminder that this is something I should perhaps aim at.
I love these lights. Oh my gosh, and the gleam on the street.
Look at these
It's
colors.
clearly wet.
Oh,
It
but
is.
look at the colors. I don't think it's AI generated, but I'm not sure.
And the homeless men can still sleep on those benches.
Yeah. Yeah, you see those leaning things they put them in New York or the cities where it's just like you lean on them. They're not like they're not actual benches because they don't want homeless people on them. They're just like these leaning bars.
This is so tragic.
Like,
Jonathan, it's been really great talking to you.
I really enjoyed this.
I've been having a real good time. You've been filling my mind with all kinds of things, and half of it's not you, it's all this insane, beautiful clippage and conjunctions and all these. Yeah, it's so thoughtful. I don't know how you put the thought into this stuff that you do, but
Crazy.
it's really cool.
Madman. No, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you like it, man. It means a lot to, I sometimes I get in my head about like what people might or not think or whether or not people care. But it's cool to see that, some people engage with what I'm doing and enjoy
Yeah.
it.
No, it's definitely pushing on all my current buttons, and it's like, yeah, you jump around the internet and whatever else, but man, it's just like you just keep my attention, I suppose. I guess that's the best way to say it. Um, it's been fun.
I'm glad. Yes, and I enjoyed this. I would love to talk again soon. We'll talk about drugs.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, and also like and also maybe health and stuff like food and honey.
Oh man, I'm literally I've got another hour left of Steiner's uh bee bee book on beekeeping, and I'm like, this is the best book I've ever read in my life.
I was really cracking up when he said you said like right now the man is talking about the hexagonal power of honey. I was like, such a Steiner thing. That's
It is so, but it's so good because that's where they start.
I mean I'm not about to knock it, I mean I'm curious to see what he has to say. I'm definitely gonna have to take a listen.
So good. Yeah, you're gonna lose your mind. But I need that with Steiner too. Like I've tried to listen to like a lot. I've read Knowledge of Higher Worlds and barely with what I could contend with. And I've tried to listen to a ton of different Steiner lectures, but like to get into like something practical, because I mean I do come with a little bit of biodynamic farming back, like that's a backdrop to a certain degree, but there's still so much there. It's like to pretend like I could even, like, I'm not following all the protocols of biodynamic, farming practices, but I'm following my intuition. And I will say this, that like getting into Steiner's like practicums in something like uh beekeeping, it's just like opens Steiner up in a way for me that I hadn't been able to, starting with something like even richer. I needed the milk before I could consume solid food type thing,
Yeah.
like with Steiner.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would probably be in the same boat, where they encounter Steiner and he's talking about these, higher worlds, and you've got the planetary evolutions and like, like
Lemuria and
yeah, the
Atlantis.
Lemurian epochs and stuff like that. And like, it's like I can imagine some people get put off. And I know actually I've heard a bunch of scholastic people say that like, because they'll be in their academic circles and somebody mentions Steiner, right? Because he's like a high caliber intellectual thinker and stuff, and then like they go and they just get turned off immediately. And I think it's kind of understandable, you know. But
Yeah.
uh but yeah, it's I'm reminded of how Sherry said that he was really trying to, like he did the architecture stuff and the Waldorf and like biodynamic, like he was very practical type of, like trying to influence the actual world events and stuff. But yeah, it seems as far as I can tell, I'm no Steiner expert, but I think yeah, I think that's probably a good shout, like to say that like there's something that stuff like his beekeeping lectures and stuff maybe would be a better introduction for some people, like
Yeah.
just in general,
Oh, because it just expounds. It doesn't take them long before
before there's something, yeah,
yeah, and it's like just like the right, and it might just be for me, but it's the right avenue in. But can I ask, do you live in a rural area or do you live in an urban area or do you live in the suburbs?
it's more of a suburban wasteland around here, like
Nice.
yeah,
I mean, that's where I grew up, suburbia.
yeah,
And I lived in an urban area for the last like 5, 6 years, basically the last decade, but I traveled around the US a little bit. And then now I'm more rural. But yeah.
yeah. You just had the like thing come up on your head.
Did I?
Yeah. I don't know how they do that. There's like gestures that they make certain things come up, like the balloons. I'm not sure.
That's amazing. I've
Yeah,
never I've never initiated something like that.
it's like a thing you can do. I don't know what it is. Maybe if you do that,
Dude, wouldn't it be so cool if we
I think
could
we
just
have,
have a
I think we have weird thumbs together. No, you have normal thumbs. I have like weird thumbs.
we should have a
Oh,
thumb
yeah, you
war.
did.
That'd be one of those things that I would do with you is have a thumb war. If I like that, we
Wait,
would.
your thumb looks big.
No, I'm so bad at it. You probably have a good pincher. I'm like,
Well,
because of the,
if we ever meet, we'll have a best, best 5 out of 7. We'll have to space them out of it.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna spend at least an hour thumb warring.
Yeah, we'll have to set up a tournament for like TLC Thumb Wars.
It gets us to touch each other though,
Yeah.
which
Reminds me
is,
of Paintball for Jesus. Great
oh
idea.
my gosh.
Yeah.
This is, yeah,
This is
this is,
great, man. Yeah, but let's do it again soon.
yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. Thanks for chatting. I
Yeah.
wish it was cool. All right, let's stop the recording. Maybe chat for to be said, for the fact that, what we were just saying how it's kind of weird being recorded, but like there's something to be said for the fact that um when people in almost all human situations before, you could see the people, like you could see the people that you're talking to, and it's not even just that, but it's like there's something personal about it, right? There's a personalized speaking to you, not, and it's like it's easy to start talking to the audience, even though I'm talking to you. And it's like,
Oh my God,
hey audience, how are you doing? No, I'm talking with you. It's like I can't be thinking about that right now.
I
You know,
know.
I don't know, it's weird. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you were very inept or an erudite psychologist or something like that, you could probably analyze all that's what's happening here or on your screen, and you could find the moments where that thought slips in, or something like that, because like
So especially if you had fancy AI tools doing it for you.
that at least happened 30 times throughout the last conversation, where it's like the reorientation of I'm having a conversation with you. Like that's why is that so hard?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we get better at it over time. I think it was generally good combo.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, bro.
All right.